My name is Jenn Rogan, and I'm a former alumni of Suffolk County Community College in the theater arts department. I am currently a costuming manager at Walt Disney World Resort, overseeing Disney character events costuming. So that means that I help kind of prepare any events and weddings, anything that doesn't happen in the park specifically. And then my team helps manage all of the costumes that go out for any of these events. Right after I left Suffolk, I actually started at Disney in the costuming department. So a lot of my wardrobe crew chief experience that I worked on at school kind of helped me find this position. I learned about the internship while I was in school at Suffolk. And from there, I saw that they hired in costuming. And I loved everything that I did about costuming when I was at school, even when I was in high school, which kind of led me to Suffolk to begin with. And that just led me to my career path. So I started in costuming, working parades and shows, and then gradually worked my way up into the management position that I'm in right now. So I did do some stage management when I was in school as well, and that kind of helped me in my position now because I sit through a lot of production meetings, and it gave me a chance to learn about all the different departments you would interact with when you're working in any type of live theater situation. So who your partners are, how their department kind of runs a little bit. You got a little bit of background because we got to learn a little bit of everything while we were in school. Kind of how to manage your time, and then just running the live events when you get there and the live shows, because we get hands-on experience with those live stage shows at school. So you kind of learn to think on the fly and on the spot and how to problem solve when you're in the middle of different shows. And a lot of that I still do day to day, especially in my events position now, because every single event is one and only and is different every time. So I've got the Shirley Cox Best All Around Theater Student Scholarship because I worked in all areas while I was at Suffolk, not just costuming. I worked stage management, lighting, some set construction. But the proudest show moment related to my current field would be designing the Prospero costume for Tempest, because I spent many hours hand painting that costume. So I would say that's probably the biggest accomplishment. You're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. And sometimes you learn more from the mistakes that you make or the failings than you do if you're successful. And so during my time at Suffolk, I was able to do independent study with Andy, the costuming professor, which was a ton of hands-on experience. Even just working major shows outside of that, the other professors, like you're working long hours, after hours, every day of the week working on these shows and putting them together. So you really kind of get that like family friendly environment, even with the faculty, because we're trying to put off these major productions, even as a student. So you work very closely hand in hand with the faculty, both during class and then when you're working in production labs and when you're working on the shows. Costuming was one of the favorites. I did the automated lighting and rigging program. So I really liked getting to learn all that stuff. And that helped with stage management because I was always like, I want to know what that light's going to do when I call the cue. So just really any of the classes are really valuable, no matter which major you're working in. Nowadays, costuming is moving very technology heavy. So having any sort of technology background, even if it's a minor amount, will help. So you never know what you're going to use and when you're going to use it. it gives you a better understanding of like the performer's needs and how garments are going to move on a performer, how they're going to interact with different set pieces. Like it definitely gives you that perspective of, yes, I know I'm not an actor, but I do need to know where they're moving on the stage and why they're moving and the reason behind a costume design or a set design and how that plays a role in the longevity, especially in my area. Like we do shows 365 days a year, so we need stuff to last and last a long time. So just knowing what the actor is being asked to do and where they're being asked to stand really kind of helps you determine like problems and solves for whatever they're doing. There's not always a typical day, but as a costume manager, you're not only managing the costumes, you're managing the employees, the cast, everybody that's working. So making sure, you know, you're paying people correctly, their schedules are correctly, that your staffing is correct, depending on what show you're doing, what event you're doing, how many people do you need, where do they need to be, what time do they need to be there. On top of your inventory. So what costumes do you have? How many do you need? What's going out for the next event? And then just collaborating with your partners. So talking to your entertainment partners to see what their needs are, sitting through production meetings to just see for bigger events like the scopes and what all is entailed for some of the larger events that we do. Fittings, so typical for any type of costuming role, we conduct fittings. And then depending on, so like I'm stationed at a park, so you're also kind of managing the entire costuming park operation. So making sure that everything's going out. If there's any problems, you're kind of the problem solver, the go-to person answering questions. And then we also consider all of our operational garments costumes. So and every person that works at the parks is in a costume. So just helping our guests, which we call our cast, our guests, because they're coming in and asking questions and looking for their size, and they're helping them out in whatever way that they need. Whenever we're opening something new, there's a lot of production meetings and planning. A lot of it even before the daily operation gets involved. So you have the people, Imagineers, that are planning what all this stuff is and what they want it to be like and how they want it to be. And then toward the tail end is when they kind of bring in all your daily operational cast, and because we're the ones that have to run it day to day. So I kind of got to help set up what the operation looks like from a costuming standpoint. How are we going to set the space up so that it's efficient for our cast? It's easier on the performers. We have enough room to do whatever tasks we need to do throughout the day. And then just kind of interact with some of the designers for some of the costumes to make sure that they had any of our feedback on what issues we're having, or this person really needs a pocket because they have to put something in their pocket while they're out on stage. So kind of being that in-between person to make sure that everything that is going out is sustainable and it fits the needs of the performers, and that the space is built and fits the need for the costuming cast as well as the performers. Whenever you see any of our characters anywhere, like on TV outside of the parks, usually it comes from Orlando, Florida. So for example, Donald just had his 90th anniversary and he was on Good Morning America. And then that was my team that helped get that all packed up so that he can go take his trip to New York.